another video from Sturmpanzer.com. In this video I'm going to basically run through a document that I found. It's a very interesting document. It's like kind of a pseudo-organizational chart for the 12th Panzer Division, but it's actually showing you how the units are deployed in the front line, so it's different than most organizational charts. It's kind of interesting. You have to kind of look at this document a little bit to kind of see all the different parts and see how it's being organized and what it's actually trying to show you. Quickly glancing at the document, we can see that the major sections that it's showing you for are the Panzer Grenadier regiments. But you don't see anything for the Panzer Regiment or the Engineer Battalion. If you look at the very top line, we'll see what we're showing here are headquarters units for the division, headquarters units for the Panzer Regiment, and headquarters units for the Engineer Battalion. The units themselves are going to be interdispersed below with the Grenadier regiments. The next line down is the artillery. You can see that this is identifying the batteries in the artillery regiment, and if you go the next line down, it's identifying the artillery battalions. In this case, it doesn't seem to specifically identify which grouping these battalions are assigned to. It seems like they're just kind of all across the top in a sense. If we work our way down to the next rows, we see that these rows are labeled as heavy weapons and reserves, and there's 3 rows for the regiment, for the battalion, and for the company. And this is basically telling you what heavy weapons the regiments had, what heavy weapons the battalions had, what heavy weapons the companies had. I want to point out this first regiment we see here. This one struck me as a little odd because it seemed like it was identifying it as an airborne unit. So I did some checking just to make sure that that symbol is actually correct. I mean, that's what it looks like as a symbol of the airborne unit. But in fact, the 1st Fallschirmjäger regiment was assigned to the 46th Panzer Corps, which was the parent of the 12th Panzer Division. So apparently it was subordinated down to the 12th Panzer Division. And incidentally, that it's just the 3rd Battalion that was assigned. Okay, so if we center on the 5th Panzer Grenadier Regiment, we see that there are lines to the left and to the right that indicate these are the units that are assigned to this 5th Panzer Grenadier group. And you can see the units that are assigned to the regiment itself. Below that are the battalions, and we can see we have the 2nd Battalion of the 5th Regiment, the 1st Battalion of the 5th Regiment. And then we have this odd one here. It seems like it's a motorcycle battalion, and I thought maybe that was the reconnaissance, but typically you wouldn't see the symbol of that nature. Anyways, I looked it up, and it is in fact the 22nd Kraftschützen Battalion, and the 12th Panzer Division apparently did not have an organic reconnaissance unit, and it was assigned to this unit. I think eventually this unit did become part of the division. Also of interest here in the battalion sections, we see this is where the armor is assigned. So even though there is not a section for the Panzer Regiment, here's where the Panzers are in fact assigned to the battalions. Below that we have the heavy weapons assigned to each company. So if we look at this one here, we see this is 1 heavy machine gun, 1 heavy mortar, and this is for the 3rd company of the 22nd Battalion. If we look over here at this one here, this is 2 heavy machine guns, 1 5cm anti-tank gun, and this is the 2nd company of the 5th Panzer Grenadier Regiment. And so on down the line. Now if we go back to the left, and we see that the company line is right below where it's showing you the company weapons, and that identifies the specific company that those weapons belong to. Then we have a front line marker, and below that, this row here, truthfully, I'm not sure what it's trying to represent or what it's telling us. Those symbols are for observation posts. So maybe they're telling you which units were assigned to the observation post, but frankly, I'm not really sure what they're showing me there. Below that is combat strength. So these are actual combat units. So it's not messengers or maintenance units or anything like that. The real interesting part of this is below that is the number of kilometers that the units are assigned. So if you look at the first one here, that's 9 kilometers, then 1.7 kilometers, 0.6 kilometers, 0.6 kilometers. And something interesting that I did not realize when I first looked at that, the distances between these lines are in fact proportional to the distance that they're showing you, so that you can actually see graphically the distances that each unit is covering relative to the other units. So if we look at the whole battalion, then let's swing back over here to the 5th Panzer Grenadier Regiment. So we can see that the battalion here is holding 3.76 combined. For the whole regiment, it is 13.3 kilometers, and then for the whole division is 26.6 kilometers. So that's about all I wanted to point out on this particular document. I thought it was very interesting because it does show you the actual weapons and the actual location in the front line that the weapons and the units are being employed. I have another couple of images to support this. So if we look at this image here, this is from March 3rd through March 16th. The previous document was March 17th. We can see that the units are lined up here very similar to how they were in that document. So that shows you that the documents basically corroborate each other. And one final document is this one here, and it's kind of the same thing, but it's also showing you the Russian units that they were facing at that time. This is for March 2nd. Thanks for watching the video. Down in the description, I will have a link to a blog post so that you can download all these documents and the maps.